Good morning, Matt. How you doing?
Doing all right, Maddie. How you doing?
I'm good. Well, you know what? Thank you for joining me, and I have to say thank you for joining me again. You know, last time we heard such a great story from you. A lot of cool stories within the big, larger story. But we focused on another hook in the book that talks about greatness, and there's a lot of greatness in what you do. But after listening to it, I wanted to come back because I think that the hook that we're going to talk about today, which is hook 47, which is if you truly believe in a greater purpose lies in your endeavor, you will see that endeavor to the end. And I think that really does hone in and fit your story. So I've asked you to come back and join me.
And happy to be here.
And we're gonna talk about that. But here's what we're gonna do. Let's through the power of editing and technology, let's go listen to your story real quick, and then join me on the other end, and we'll talk about it.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, it really resonated with me when I read your book. A lot of them did. A lot of your books did, actually. But this one was one of the ones in particular that did, because you and I have something in common, which is that at one point in our lives, we thought we were maybe destined to do something else. I was a full-time lawyer at one point, and actually for a long stretch, for 11 years, working in a downtown law office right next to the World Trade Center. And basically, growing up, my parents, knew I was very musical, obviously, and that did encourage it, but said, be a professional something first, and if music should happen magically, then great. But that wasn't my focus. So being a doctor didn't work out because organic chemistry was beyond me. So next step was law. I was doing okay at it, but I can tell you honestly, not one single day did I have as a lawyer that I came home from work and I said, this is a good day.
Wow.
I never had that day.
Never.
Not even once. I remember what my quote best day was, where I was involved in a multi-million-dollar case against a celebrity, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And using my knowledge of the entertainment field, I reduced the case from a multi-million-dollar case to a settlement of under $10,000. Okay. And my bosses were ecstatic. And I remember walking home from work that day saying, today still sucked. It just did. Yeah. I kind of always knew that I was not doing what I should be doing.
Can I ask you something real quick? So yeah. as you were preparing, though, to be a lawyer, was it just because you felt like you needed something, you knew you needed a job, you knew you needed a direction?
Yeah. I mean, academically, I was strong, and I was always a really good writer, still am. I have a big mouth, I can argue. So yeah. It seemed like a sort of natural fit, but from a happiness perspective, I was really shoehorning myself into something that wasn't going to fit very well.
I mentioned in the book, I wasn't anywhere near what you achieved, right? In the law field. I mean, I just kind of, like, as I say in the book, I studied for the LSAT a little bit, went to take the test.
Right.
But I also mentioned how I didn't even understand that there was a path in music at all. As I say, I thought you were either just some guy playing some tunes, right, for some friends, or you're right. Billy Joel. I didn't even know there was an in-between. Were you aware there was an in-between? You just didn't want to pursue it?
I was sort of aware, but I was kind of part of that in-between, because on my weekends, even as a lawyer, I was still playing weddings with a wedding band. But it was for a company that I did not like or respect.
Uh-huh.
And they seemed not to respect my abilities or capabilities. And was an unhappy fit also for me at that point. And honestly, I felt like I was kind of working robotically because you're playing the same set of songs every Saturday night, and you're kind of on autopilot. I remember I had one wedding where the singer in our band tapped me on the shoulder because I had fallen asleep, but I was still playing, and she only knew that I fell asleep because I missed my background harmony, and I was asleep, but my hands were still playing. I mean, that's how robotically I was doing this gig. I had tried to become, an original artist. I tried to get signed by a record company. I came pretty close at one point with Atlantic Records. I had lots of meetings, but I wasn't there. I wasn't the right person at the right time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And once that happened, I kind of got a little demoralized. I just said, I guess it's time to just focus on what I'm doing, which is being a lawyer, and try to find some way to make it work. But it did not. It never did. Not one day. And then 9/11 happened a block away from my office, and I was there for the whole thing and saw horrible things that day, horrible, that are still scarred into me forever. And I basically said that day, whatever I have to do to get out of doing this, I'm going to find it, because this is not making me happy. And here I am, a block away from disaster and death, and this is not worth it. And I'm going to do what makes me happy and what I know I'm good at, and what I know that even on my worst day doing it, even in that bad, music company that I was working for, I enjoyed playing with the people. I enjoyed singing. I enjoyed doing what I was doing. And I said, at least even on a bad day, there's something good to take out of it. And I know that if I do this right, something good will come out of it. I'll feel better about what I'm doing, about myself. So that was the day I started, trying to find my way out actively, and sure enough, about 9 months later, I guess it was May of 2002. I had my radio on in my office, and I was completely distracted from my work. And an announcement came over 1010 Wins that Billy Joel was going to be doing a musical on Broadway called Movin Out, and that it was starting, pre-production. And I said to myself, I've been playing and singing his music since I'm 7 years old.
Yeah.
If I can't get this, then I don't deserve to have a music career. This is the proof that I'll need.
Wow.
And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get this, no matter how long it takes, because this is something I should be doing, that I have the capability of doing, that I've done, virtually since I was breathing. And I just said, that's it. And I did whatever I had to do, which was a lot.
Yeah. That's a high bar to give yourself to justify the move, right? I mean, you're changing careers, and you say, if I don't achieve this Broadway show, then a lead in a Broadway show, then I'm not qualified.
It was interesting. I didn't really think of it that way because I didn't know that much about it at first. What I figured was going to happen when I first heard it, I knew it was going to be a dance show. And what I figured it would be is that there would be a pit, a standard pit. Yeah. And whoever was being the Billy Joel would be in the pit, unseen, in the background, just the music would be playing, and they would be dancing. Perfect for me, because I had no, stage experience like that at all. I'm just, some musician guy, and I'll be a musician guy in the pit. Then the show came out, and, I saw what it was. The original drummer for the show on Broadway was Chuck Berge, who is now Billy's drummer. Right. And he and I have done lots of weddings together, and I knew him very well. So I had contacted him about the show, and I found out he was doing it. He said, in that very high-pitched voice of his, well, there's going to be a soundtrack, and, as soon as we get it all figured out, I'll send it to you, and, we're going to Chicago. And so
sounds like him.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. So I didn't really think he would, but sure enough, like in August or early September, I got a CD in the mail with a note. Here's the soundtrack, get cracking, or whatever he said.
Yeah.
And, but I saw when the show came out, this is not exactly what I thought it was. I'm going to have to be on a stage. But I said, I have to do it. And, I immediately started back in that May when I heard about that, saying, I'm going to learn these songs and make it so that it's like breathing to me. And it used to be like that. Like when I was 15 years old, I remember I'd play the intro to Angry Young Man, that fast fingered thing.
Yeah.
For like an hour straight without stopping on my piano. I would just do it as fast as I could. And I'd never get tired. And it was like, I could just do it forever. And then I said to myself, well, I was doing that when I was 15. And I went and tried to do it again at 35. And I couldn't even get through it once. Because I've been playing all these weddings on a non-weighted keyboard. My skills had eroded. And I'd also been playing a lot of and guitar and bass.
It had more meaning at this point too.
Right. It also had more meaning and the tension about it and anxiety about it.
Yeah.
But I just said, I'm going to have to do something that I've never done in my whole life to get this, if I'm serious, which is practice.
Oh.
I never practiced, ever. not even a second. Everything came naturally to me. Just, I would hear it and I would play it. I would never even have to sit down and figure it out. It was, I sat and played. Now I had to sit down and take things down to a quarter speed and really work out the notes and work it up. And what happened was I started practicing 4 hours a day, every day, without missing a day.
Yeah.
And I know I was living with my brother at the time. I know I drove him absolutely nuts with what I was doing. And then, Chuck contacted me and said they're starting to look for some people for future Piano Man chair, and if you're interested, I'll try to set something up. And I said great. But then there was a public audition, or an open call that the union had.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not even going to wait for him. I've been practicing this stuff for almost 8-9 months now. I've got it cold. And I went to this audition. There were thousands of people there. It was literally every piano player in New York had lined around the block and around the block again and around the block again.
I didn't know that.
I walked in there and I saw that 90% of the people were using the what is that book that the Hal Leonard books?
The Green Book, right?
Yeah, the Green Book.
Yeah.
And I said, I know for a fact none of these people are getting it if they're using that book, because Chuck told me that there are so many mistakes in this book that you can't deposit. But even so, I went in there with all confident and brash, and I played with Chuck, and he knows what I can. And I walk in 30 seconds later after I start. Thank you very much. We'll let you know.
Who was auditioning you?
I don't even know. It was just two people in a room. Okay. I don't even know who they were. People just came in and played solo. They asked you to play a little bit, but I was totally demoralized. I got 30 seconds, just like everybody. And
we'll call you.
I went home and I called Chuck up and I said, I guess it's not going to happen. I went to this thing, and he starts laughing at me and he says, Matthew, I told you not to do anything. I told you I'd set it up. This was an open call. They're not hiring anybody off of open calls. They have to do it. It's a union requirement.
Okay.
Every so often they must hold an open call. It's union rules. So they weren't hiring anybody. They just have everybody line up. They do it and they're done.
Yeah.
So, but then he set up a real closed audition for me. And I had two of these, and this is my first one. You were at my second one. You and I together.
You were at my audition.
Yeah.
Or was I at yours? Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just the same. But the first one, I get there, and there are all these, good-looking gentlemen there in their cool shirts, and their hair's all done, and tattoos, and here I am. I literally came from court. I had a briefcase and a suit and lawyer glasses on.
I remember.
I came in there, and I walked into the room, and Chuck was there, which was fine. I didn't know anybody else in the room. I knew nobody. I didn't know that Twyla Tharp was in the room. I didn't know who Tommy Burns was. I didn't know Hal Luftig, and I didn't know Manny Eisenberg, and I didn't know all of these producers who were all in the room. I didn't know who they were. And, Stuart Molina, who you know very well, was there. Very lovely.
Yeah.
Matthew, let's see what you can do. So they had me play, I think, scenes, and they had me do Uptown Girl, and then they had me do the Angry Young Man to make sure that I could play it. And then they said, pick something you want to do.
Uh-huh.
I said, that's intriguing that they would say that. So I went a little bit off the straight and narrow, and I did Shameless, which I knew I did well.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was done, Stuart said to me, Matthew, I want to ask you a question. What else do you do? And I said, I'm a lawyer. And they all started laughing. And Stuart said, no, seriously. I said, no, seriously. I have to be back in court in 45 minutes. I have my briefcase. He said, well, we figured it was something like that because the whole time you were playing, your leg was wrapped around the keyboard stand and the keyboard was going up and down, shaking up and down like this. We didn't know how you were playing any notes correctly, but you played all the notes correctly. You were so terrified. You were like a deer in the headlights. And yet this is what came out of you. It's amazing. And he said to me, clearly, from a performance perspective, you are not ready to do something like this.
Yeah.
Clearly, from a talent perspective, you are.
Yeah.
So we're not saying yes to you today, but we're not saying no either.
Right.
And when I heard that, I said, that's it. I am getting this.
There you go.
No matter what I have to do, no matter how many bodies I have to bury along the way, I'm getting this part. And he said, we're going to give you an open ticket to the show. You come whenever you want. There's, talk to Michael Cavanaugh, talk to Wade Preston, pick their brains about the performance aspects and the things you need to do. Get out there and play this stuff live. Don't be afraid to do it. Get out there and do it. That's the only way you're going to get that comfort level. And when you're ready, we'll see you again.
There you go.
And I walked out of that room saying, that's it. I'm getting this no matter what happens.
Did you go play it live other places? Did you put a band together? And
Well, what ended up happening for this was that before I got the role, I ended up getting two of my friends into the band as subs. Dave Anthony, who was a drummer, and Owen Yost, who's a bass player, had both played weddings with me for years. And when Chuck needed a drum sub, I recommended Dave. And, when Owen, was looking to get it, I talked to Greg Smith because I had been talking to the whole band and they got these guys in. So to thank me for getting them into the band I was trying to get into, every Monday for a year, we went to a rehearsal studio near Penn Station and we ran the show from beginning to end. It helped them because it kept them fresh for the show. And it helped me because I got used to performing the show. And by the time a year was up, the show was second nature to me. I had literally played it 50 times.
Right.
And then, of course, in the interim, I ended up playing Billy Joel's Wedding to Katie Lee. And at that point, I was much more confident, as a performer, because I'd been playing out, with Dave and Owen and a couple of guitarist friends of mine would step in and play the guitar. I was much more confident and I got a really great feature at that wedding, thanks to Billy, honestly.
Let's talk about that for a minute. How did you get that?
That was, as much as everything else that I did for this was the hard work and, don't give up no matter what happens. This was pure luck. I was doing a jazz recording in Coney Island at a studio with some of my other wedding band friends. And I was sitting in the waiting room waiting to do my tracks. The bass player named Jerry Brooks, who's like a legend in the fusion jazz field, was there, and he got a call. And Jerry was a really happy-go-lucky, always smiling, joking guy, and he became very serious on this call. So I kind of went up to him and went, ooh, Jerry's serious. Why is Jerry all serious? And I was just joking with him. And he looked at me and said, I just got asked to play Billy Joel's Wedding. And I looked at him and he looked at me and he got back on the phone and went, there's a guy next to me who can play and sing all of Billy's stuff. Maybe we should put him on the wedding too. Oh, really? Oh, okay, fine. You're on the wedding. It was that. And I never played with this wedding band before, but just on his recommendation, they put me in. I was really only supposed to be there just in case Billy's stuff was required.
Yeah.
But they heard me warming up during the rehearsal that we had. There was a drummer named Abe Fogel, who I'm still very good friends with.
Yeah.
Abe went to the band leader and said, "You got to hear this guy singing. We got to feature him in our regular set. We got to find some songs."
Yeah.
So he did. And then a week before the wedding, Billy and Katie came to hear us, and at the to give the stamp of approval.
Right.
And they started off by playing New York State of Mind. That's how they wanted to start. So I got to sing that for Billy. And then after we did that, he just said, "You guys are hired. You're great. Let's play some more stuff. I want to dance with Katie." So we played like 3 more songs. And then after that, Billy came over to me and said, "I love your keyboard, man." And I had a Korg Karma, which I'm sure you remember, the flaming red keyboard.
Yeah.
He's like, "It's red, man. Can I try it?" I said, "I'll never wash it again, Billy. Sit down." So he said, "Put on a Hammond organ sound for me." So I gave him a Hammond organ, and he started playing "Give Me Some Lovin'." So I started singing it because I said, I'm never going to have this opportunity. Billy Joel backing me up, even if it's for 5 seconds. Take it. So he played the whole song with me, just me and him. And when he was done, he got up and gave me a hug, and he said, "Can I curse on this thing?" I'll say exactly what he said.
Yeah.
You are so talented, man. How come I don't know you?
Oh, wow.
And my response was, "I really want to get to know you better in the future, sir." That was my response. And he said, "I want you to play the dinner hour at my wedding. You, not the band, you, solo." And I said, "Do you want your stuff, or do you want everyone else's but yours?" And he said, "I don't know. I'll tell you at the wedding. Have a set of both." So his stuff was easy. I had this set, but I had to think, who's going to be at this wedding? Because if I'm going to go down, it's going to be the biggest atomic fire that anybody ever saw. Yeah. I'm going to do whoever's going to be there. So Elton John, Sting, U2, who's going to be? I had no idea, but I'm just any friend of his possibly. I'm doing it in the set. 5 minutes before we were going to start that day, he came into the tent. The wedding was at his house.
Yeah.
And he said, "Everyone else's but mine. Too much pressure on you, too much pressure on me. I want to enjoy my wedding, and I don't want you to feel that pressure of having to impress me. Everyone else's but mine."
Right.
So I did. I didn't know that when I sang "The Best of My Love" by the Eagles, that Don Henley was sitting 10 feet away. I didn't know that when I did a duet with Billy at the end of the night on "Superstition," that Stevie Wonder was sitting with Don Henley. I had no idea. I found out afterwards when I went over to their table and talked to them. And I said that night, "You know what? If I don't get Movin' Out, at least I had this." I played, but then Billy came up to me at the end of the night and said, "You were really great. You were exactly what I hoped for." And I said to him, "I want your show."
Yeah.
And he said, "If it was up to me, you'd have it, but it's not up to me. But the people who it's up to were here tonight, and I'm sure you impressed them.
Right.
So don't be surprised."
Yeah.
And sure enough, shortly after that, I had my second closed audition.
Mm-hmm.
And Stuart said to me, "This is what we hope to see. When there's an opening, we'll let you know." But it was months and months after that, and I'm waiting. And I would get a regular email from him. "We have plans." This from basically, March to September or whatever it was. I would get my regular email, and then October the email didn't come. And I'm like, "Uh-oh, that doesn't bode well."
Yeah.
And then I hear the show's closing on Broadway.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I guess that's that."
Yeah.
So November came, and I called Michael Cavanaugh and said, "Hey, man, I know the show's closing on it was December 11th of 2005. I said, I'd love to come see you one more time." And he called me back from his car on his cell phone, which at that time was still a newfangled thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
"Matt, I can't believe you called me today of all days. They're talking about you at the theater. There's going to be 2 tickets for you tonight. Come tonight and bring your girlfriend. And I got to talk to you. Come to the theater." And he just hung up. I went,
Yeah.
"This sounds pretty shaky, but I'm going to go."
Right. Yeah.
And I went, and after the show went backstage, and he was there, and he took me onto the stage, and he said, they're going to call you tomorrow. And I said, call me for what? The show's closing in, a month. He said, Matthew, let me ask you a question. If they offered you the national tour, would you go? I said, I would go yesterday.
Yeah.
I wasn't married yet. My now wife, but then girlfriend, loved to travel. I couldn't wait to get out of the law job that I'm still doing. He said, they're going to call you. They were talking about you all day. They need somebody for the national tour. There's a new production opening up in England. And they're going to take one of the guys from the tour and send them there. Mm-hmm. And a spot's going to open here, and you're going to move into it. He said, Michael, they've been saying stuff to me for a year about there's going to be an opening, and I've heard nothing. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
And the next day, I'm in court. I think I told you this story. And I had my phone with me, which I wasn't supposed to have. And I was in front of Judge Garson in Brooklyn, and the phone rang, and my ringer, which was one of those little beepy little ringers back then, was scenes from an Italian restaurant. That's exactly what it sounded like. Yeah. And it was Stewart. And I said to the judge, can I have 30 seconds outside? Yeah. He let me go. Nice guy. He ended up in prison, unfortunately, for other things, but nice guy. Yeah. I went out and I said, hello. And Stewart says, Matthew, this is Stuart Molina from Movin Out. Your life is about to change forever.
There you go.
I said, it is. And he said, we need somebody for the tour. Michael was right. We have X amount of time left. Pick the date you want to do in that time. And you're going to do your put-in.
Yeah.
So I picked the latest possible date, which was December 8th, which is the last date they could do it. And I went on and did that put-in that day. And it was my first time ever using in-ears, was that day. Mm-hmm. And I put them in, and I could not believe how great everything sounded. I was used to rehearsing in a rehearsal studio with, just monitors, and everything sounded, like crap. This sounded like so pristine. It sounded like the record, and I could get the tracks exactly like I wanted it. And Tommy Burns was there, and he's like, you need some more time? I said, I am ready now. This is amazing. I'm ready now. And he said, it's your funeral, Friedman. Just remember that. Yeah. So there I am doing my put in, and I see Tommy Burns get up after the fourth song during Just the Way You Are. He gets up and leaves. I said, this might not be good. But after I was done, Stewart and Abby Strassler, who I'm sure you remember, were racing each other to get to me first. Yeah. And Stewart came up to me and said, Matthew, we know that your instinct now is to go home and sit by the phone, biting your nails down to the nub while you think we're going to be deliberating your fate. But we want you to go home, have a nice cup of tea, take a nice warm shower, make a reservation at your favorite restaurant, take your lovely girlfriend, have a lovely dinner. It's on us. Give us the receipt.
Oh, wow.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I called my mom, who, of course, immediately burst into tears. And then she put my dad on the phone.
Yeah.
And Dad's reaction was, I'll believe it when I see it.
Of course, the dad.
This is the music industry. All they're going to try to do is screw you right and left. They'll find some way to pull it away from you.
It'd been years already. I mean, 2 years at this point.
Right. No, 3. Actually, it was almost 3 at this point.
Well,
so
the first one, that would have been 03, right?
I started. 02. Yeah, I started in 02 trying to get it. I started working on it in May of 02.
Yeah.
So we're now, December of 05.
Right. Okay.
So more than 3 years as a process to get it. And then, I quit my law job with 3 days notice. On a Tuesday, I said Friday's my last day. I flew down to Fort Lauderdale. And then they told me I'd be doing my first show in Miami the following week. I called my parents, they buy tickets, and then they tell me, oh, no. You have to do the synth book first. You have to make sure that that's your first show. So I had to call my parents and tell them, cancel your tickets. It's only the synth book.
You're doing synth, right.
And my dad says, see, they never wanted you for the lead. They only wanted you for the synth book. I said, no, it's something that we all have to, all the piano men have to know in case of an emergency. You have to know. No, they're going to, well, a week after that, we were in Naples, Florida, and it was February 2nd, 2006, I believe. Yep. And they flew down for that, and that was my first show, so and which was its own movie disaster film in its own right. But yeah, that was it. Was
I mean, so I want to also point out. I'm going to just tell everybody watching. Not only so you went through this process, but fast forward. I mean, what 10, 15 years or 13 years or something, and probably your most recent claim to fame was getting to front Lords of 52nd.
Yes, I started doing that basically right before the pandemic hit. I did 4 shows with them.
For those that don't know, Lords of 52nd, they're Billy's original band without Billy, right?
Basically, yeah. It's Richie Cannata and Liberty DeVito and Russell Javers. And unfortunately, Doug Stickmeyer's no longer with us, but you know, other phenomenal musicians in the band, you know, filling in the slots. And yeah, it was interesting, Matt. When I was a kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, my dream, literally, but I would dream it as a kid every night. I would be at Nassau Coliseum, which was our local arena. My parents were taking me to see Billy Joel. And 5 minutes before the show went on, there's an announcement. Billy is sick and can't go on. Is there anybody in the audience who can come up? And me. And they throw me up on stage. Yeah. And there I am playing with Richie Cannata, Liberty DeVito, Russell Javers, but not Billy Joel. I'm Billy Joel in the dream.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to 2019, that literally happened. Not at Nassau Coliseum, but at big venues with thousands of people coming to watch.
Right.
You know, I am playing with these guys. It was surreal. And let me tell you, the thunder of the power of this band, it goes through you like cannonball through your chest. It's like crazy.
Right.
Just shocking. But
okay, so Matt, here we are. Man, all that you talked about, the transition from being a lawyer, not feeling satisfied, knowing that you had a calling inside of you to do something else.
Right.
That was the driving force that kept you in the game for, was it 3 years? Remind me, 3 years?
3 years, yeah, more, maybe even a little bit more. Yeah.
Before you reached your ultimate goal. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a little story, and then you can respond here. I had a similar situation as I was preparing to audition for Moving Out. I would set up some auditions with my team. I would audition for my manager. I'd audition for family. I would just test it out, right? And one of the first ones that I didn't go too well.
Really?
No, not for my. Yeah, for my team, it didn't go too well. I didn't messed up, and I was just, I don't know. It wasn't my thing. And so it didn't go well. And I remember talking to my girlfriend at the time. She wondered why I was so upset for just even a practice audition. And I said, because I'm not going to fail at this. I am going to succeed. I believe that this is what I need to be doing, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And that drive is what set me up and propelled me to practice 14 hours a day for however many months, and to hold on through all the different audition processes. Similar to your situation, right?
Extremely similar. I didn't necessarily, do a performance practice for anyone. I had one person who saw me rehearsing a lot. That was my brother, Evan, I was living with him at the time. So every night when I would come home and practice for 4 hours in our mutual living room, he would see the process I was going through, and he would give me some very helpful, comments occasionally, because he's a musician as well, very talented guy. Slightly more happy in his job as an attorney than I was. But I didn't have too many other people who I was bouncing off of. Mm-hmm. But I definitely, especially as I explained after my first audition, when Stuart Molina, that he wasn't saying yes but wasn't saying no either, I knew that no matter what was going to happen, and no matter what the process, and no matter what anyone told me, I was going to see it through, because
Yes.
they had kicked the door open a little. I will say this, and I can say this now because there's, some time, significant time now between the audition process and now. There was a particular person in casting, and I won't name names, who was extremely unsupportive, and that would be kind. As nice as most people were, and as supportive as most people were, Stuart and Abby Strassler, and others were very supportive. This one person was not.
Right.
And as I also told you, I had an open ticket to the show, and I would go and watch it as often as I could to learn the performance aspects and learn those things which, were the gaps in my knowledge,
Right.
to be able to pull this off. And I probably went to see it 20 times, in over 2 or 3 years to see it. And I remember on one occasion, this person told me, "Why do you keep calling and asking for these tickets? You're never getting this part.
Whoa.
You are not appropriate. You're never getting it. You're wasting everyone's time. You're never gonna get it." And I remember basically telling her a kinder version of, "That's your opinion and you're entitled to it. Now give me my tickets."
There you go.
But every time I would ask, this person would be, annoyed, aggravated, "You've got no shot at this. Why do you keep?" And I just, every time she said it, it made me, not that I'm a vengeful person typically in life. I forgive and forget very easily. I wanted to take a figurative sneaker and smash her face with it, is how I kind of felt with it, and rub it in when I got this job. And when I did get it, after I got, cast, I went to the closing party for Movin Out on Broadway, which was 3 days after I got cast for the national tour.
Right.
Michael Cavanaugh very graciously made sure that I could show up at the closing party. And I remember seeing her there. And I remember walking over to her and say, "Still think I'm not getting it?"
Wow. You had
And
a
walked
moment there.
away.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even the best moment of that, because there were others along the way who were also not supportive. A particular music agency that I was working for as well, had an inroad into the show, and they, as far as getting musicians into the pit or people auditioned, and they sent in many candidates to audition for the piano man role, and never sent me.
Right.
Because I wasn't so willing to play the political games they would play in their business. And they were seated right next to me at the party, and I was with my future wife now at this party. And I remember hearing them whispering to each other, "How did he get in here? Why is he at the party?" They didn't know.
They didn't know.
And then, of course, Stuart and Abby came over to me at the party, and Abby had a yellow envelope with my travel itinerary and all my stuff in it. And they're like, "How did we get this far?" And I won't go into the rest of that story, but there was more to it that was just as satisfying as that moment. And people will be naysayers. You can be your own naysayer too. You may have those moments where you're frustrated and "I'm not playing this right. I'm never going to get this right." And you bring yourself down. But you can't let others, if you're sure, you can't let others' negativity derail you.
That's so meaningful. That is terribly meaningful. As I head into another phase in my career, in my life, with the book and trying, expanding my creative output and my thinking, and in some cases rebranding,
Right.
who I am and what I'm doing, I have to remind myself that even though I don't look it, but I'm middle-aged, right? You know, that I'm
You handsome bastard, you.
yeah, I'm starting over. And I have to believe in this. I have to believe in what I'm doing, and meet supportive friends and peers like you who encourage me along, but then also some other people that they don't see the vision, and so they're not as supportive, or they don't respond at all. But I keep going back to the hook, which is, if I believe that the greater purpose lies in my endeavor, I'm going to see it until the end, no matter of the negativity, no matter of, well, did I have a bad practice audition, or is it now year 2 that I didn't get the role yet, like in your case, and now we're waiting, and so many people, you know. There's a few lines here that I want you to respond to, because you were a lawyer in New York City, and to many people that's success, right? But
yeah, great success.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, come on, right? You know,
Yeah.
And to many that would be a calling. But I write here that if you're propelled by pure and unfiltered motivation, a calling will change your life and bring you more meaning than money or other trappings just a job will offer. Why not aim for that? That kind of describes how you felt when you would come home from your law office every day, doesn't it?
It does. I actually have a few things to say about this. So the first thing is actually kind of funny. Just yesterday, my daughter did an interview with a very, very successful Broadway actor. And it's for her theater class. And she was doing kind of like a 20 questions with him. And, you know, she was asking him about his motivations, what made him want to become an actor, a successful actor. And he said, if you're in it for Tony Awards, you won't be happy. If you're in it for money, you won't be happy.
Right.
If you're in it to be happy, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And that was such a great answer by him. And honestly, you know, just going back to the lawyer stuff, there is a very big difference between being an Uber partner at a very successful, you know, New York City law firm, and being what the typical lawyer in New York is, which is, it's much less glamorous and much more grunt work than you see on TV. I guess would be the great thing about it. It's a lot of running around and a lot of sitting around in crowded courtrooms and a lot of yelling and screaming at people and a lot of typing and a lot of, you know, looking up statutes and looking up relevant cases and tracking down witnesses who don't want to cooperate with you, and a lot of frustration, and you feel like it's a lot of wasted time. And maybe for that 5 minutes that you're in a courtroom and having your moment, it's great, but it's 5 minutes and then it's on to the next case, and that's it. Yeah. There's nothing passion driving in that, and there never was to me. There never ever was.
Some, maybe, yeah, right. Somebody may just woo. That's what I want to do, but to
that,
you,
and that is true. There are some people who are so devoted to it, and who are, you know, the disciple of the great attorneys, and they want to be that, and they're willing to do that. I really couldn't stand even a single second of it. I hated it. I felt I was wasting time.
So what I believe, and I write about this in other parts of the book, is that we have these experiences, and then it's just natural for us to want to take our experiences and then turn around and share them with others to be helpful. Right? Yes. Now, I admit, and I even write about it, that what I'm about to say sounds super motivational speakery, is the words that I use in the book. Sure. But I say, for those still searching, I encourage you to make it your calling, to find your calling. Don't you think, I mean, obviously you had success that not only fulfilled you, but it sounds pretty cool. You got to hang out with Billy Joel. You got to play Billy Joel on a Broadway show. You got to travel the country. You got to be a rock star. You know, all that is really cool. And not everybody's going to have that kind of output. In fact, not many, right?
Right.
But they may decide that they don't want to sell widgets anymore. Maybe want to go be a teacher. Maybe they don't want to
Correct.
be a lawyer anymore. Maybe they want to be a social worker, or maybe, just, and they think in their mind, man, if I could really do that, but they don't find that motivation to make that change.
Right.
If someone came to you and were talking to you about it, would you say that it was 100% worth it? Or would you say, oh, it's too much work, you got to really think about it? What would be your response if someone says, you know what, I think there's something more that I should be doing?
100% worth it. And honestly, it's easy to say in hindsight, but I believe this. If rather than being the piano man, someone had said to me, you can be the synth player in a Broadway show instead of being a lawyer, or you can get in this really good touring band. We're not famous, but we play a lot of good places, and you'll make a good living, and you'll be, being a reasonably successful and productive musician. I would have quit in a heartbeat, basically, at that point. The only reason that it was so dramatic in my case was, again, growing up in Long Island and having Billy Joel as my hero, literally, from the time I was in knee pants onward, and hearing that on the radio. It was like a visceral experience for me to hear that there was the potential to be that, and knowing that I had played that music for so many years and that it was like in my, the fabric of my being, so to speak. It was very visceral. But again, if someone had just said to me, we've got this band, we're going to promote this record, we're going to be playing for crowds of, whatever, 200 or 300 a night, but we'll play, 150 nights a week and a year, and we'll just have fun and a good time, and you'll be happy.
You would have taken
I would have done it at that point in my life, especially because after 9/11, I just knew I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. And I was looking for that way out.
And that's a good thing to say. You were looking for the way out, right? I write here, I believe your calling is just waiting there to be found, right? And you were looking for something to give you that extra motivation to go out and make that change. I remember you saying, even though to those listening today, it was just maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, but to us, it was a few days ago.
Right. You
were playing in a band while you were a lawyer. You were doing some musical things, but it was a side project, right? And but along the way, your antenna was up, if you will, looking for that something that was going to motivate you, and you found it. And maybe what we could say to people that find themselves wanting to do that is be hopeful and have faith that there is something out there that will be more meaningful to you. You just have to be open to see it.
Keep that antenna up is a great thing to say, because those opportunities are out there, and you just have to be attuned to finding them. If you know that what you're doing is not what you're meant to be doing, then be hard on the lookout for what you should be doing.
So awesome. I got there's a buddy of mine who over this past year, he's a musician, and obviously he wasn't playing, and he and so we're talking about different stuff, and he may move here, he may move there. But then he started talking about a project that he had in mind, and I could literally hear over the phone his whole demeanor changed. You could feel the energy coming out of the phone. And I said, that's what you should be doing. He goes, what are you talking about? And I said, I feel like I'm talking to a whole different guy. You're terribly excited now about this. And he goes, you hear that? And I said, yes, I hear that. That's what you should pursue. I did the same thing as I started really honing in on finish the book and making these career changes or aiming in a different direction. You talk to me about my other projects, and I would have the professional enthusiasm for them. But if someone started talking about hooks, everything changed. I got excited. I started talking a mile a minute and so many things that I had to say. And even when I started writing and having the inspiration for the book many, many years ago, I could feel that. And I told myself, be aware for those moments. Be aware for the muse to come in and inspire you. Be aware to see your calling maybe lying right in front of you. And if you're not paying attention, it's not you're going to miss it forever, but you may miss it in that moment.
That is absolutely correct. Once you know that what you're doing is not what you should be doing, that antenna's got to be up and stay up. That's it. It's got to be. After everything went down, like I described it on 9/11, my antenna was up all the time. And, luckily for me, it only took, 9 months of looking and listening until that radio broadcast, talking about the show. But I was looking for anything, to write original music, to get something in a commercial, to find some band that, I would like, that I would be a good fit for. I did a band with my brothers for a while before Moving Out hit, which was really fun and which was really great, and was a great outlet for me just to get, out of the law mindset and into a musical mindset. It was creative. I was writing. I was working with, 3 of my siblings. And, we had a little bit of local success, but, eventually became clear that it wasn't going to go anywhere past that. And I had to keep my attention open. But that definitely, getting that antenna up and keeping on searching and always being on the lookout when you're not happy and you're not happy is fundamentally necessary.
And you didn't get up. You didn't give up.
No,
I
would not.
I mean, if the thing with the brother wasn't working out right, okay, well, that doesn't mean that I'm going to quit.
Nope.
If this particular band I'm playing with, they don't have enough gigs, or I'm not out there enough, or I don't like the folks, you're not quitting. It's just in your mind, you're thinking, okay, what's another outlet for this thing that's inside of me? And that is the main point of this hook, is that once you one way you found it is that you don't want to give up on it, no matter what. I mean, for me, as I'm pursuing this new project, sometimes I'll look up and I go, well, I don't see the next move. But rather than go, it's over, I'm thinking that just means that I have to look harder, that I have to become more creative, that what's a different way to get this message out there? What's a different way to share this? Because this is what I feel like I need to be doing. I believe it, and your change. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of plans coming up, but I mean, let's be honest, this Moving Out stuff was 10 years ago, 15 years ago for me. I mean, a long time ago now. And here you're still there. You've had some great successes that maybe to others may not rival, but I always say just staying in the game as a musician is the greatest accomplishment. Right.
I feel that so strongly, just that, I sometimes joke that I started at the top and I've been working my way down ever since, but it's not really true, because again, like you said, it's kind of like peaks and valleys. I mean, as I discussed earlier, getting to play with the Lords of 52nd Street at this point and is ridiculous. And, I'm so happy doing everything I'm doing, even if it's like a little bar gig somewhere, or whether it's dueling pianos for a happy, laughing crowd, or if it's playing with the Lords in front of 2,000 people, or whatever, a wedding, somewhere where I'm, helping people start their lives out on a happy note.
Absolutely.
All of it makes me happy. All of it makes me happy.
And
anything I dislike about it.
Right.
So,
well, I know so many people are glad that you stuck with it, that you fought through it. And like you said, when you're out there playing now, you're bringing joy to people. You really are. And that's meaningful. And you know what, if maybe you gave up, or you didn't have the antenna up, or you didn't hang in there, then those people that you've touched along the way, there'd be a different story, So
I kind of find it's like equal parts bringing joy to others and bringing joy to myself.
Yeah.
And feed off of each other. It's like it's like a convection oven, so to speak. It makes it spin. Eventually you can't separate, which is more important or which is driving the other, because they just drive each other around. And I play a wedding and I feel so juiced afterwards to have done it. Even it's not a glamorous gig necessarily, but you had all these people, you had a full dance floor and they're all screaming, having a good time. And you did that. You know, you are collaborating with other musicians that you really like. And you are creating an energy that people will love, and you feed off of the same energy you're feeding them. It's an awesome feeling. And again, as a lawyer, never had one day of that. Never had 1 hour of that. Gotta be honest. Right. Never, you know, and I feel it every second of being a musician. And it was definitely, you know, that was the calling.
Well,
that was
and you know, you fit perfectly with this hook in that, because it took a lot of dedication just to become a lawyer, right? And yeah,
it did.
Right. And so that you put all that effort in there, and then you realized, this isn't it. That you made the change, you fought through negativity, you got better, you continued to practice, you raised your game, you persevered, you stayed in there, you were patient, you were persistent, and you've been a success. And I think that's wonderful.
Thanks, Matty.
Hey, thank you. All right. I know we'll talk soon.
All right.